Hi everyone, my name's Dave Dormond. I'm the Assistant Director at the Workshop on the Water at Philadelphia's Independence Seaport Museum. Today I wanted to take a look at the winches that we're going to be installing on the Corinthian sloop we've been building. These winches came to us from one of the original boats we were able to salvage. So it's really nice when you get to use an original piece on a build you're doing. These are bronze. They've been chrome plated. You can see they're a little tarnished though, so we're going to send them off to the plater to get re-chromed, but in order to do that we need to break them down, clean them up real good. So in order to do that, we've got a couple of things. We've got a parts tub to throw any spare parts in. We've got a hammer and a punch so that we can take out our locating pin or retainer pin. We've got a rag for cleanup, and I've got some rubber gloves just to keep my hands clean. So pretty simple setup. Let's go ahead and take a look. Alright, so to take this thing apart, we should probably take a little closer look at how it's put together and how it works. Basically, this winch is made up of three components. We've got a base plate here, which you can see has mounting holes in it for mounting to the deck. On top of that is a drum, which you're going to wrap your sheet around so you can tighten your sails. And then on top of that, we've got a cap. In this case, this cap is used for tensioning. This is a light duty winch. Heavier duty winches, you're going to see a handle used for tensioning. This one simply you twist the cap and it ratchets, and that's going to just add some tension when you need to just fine-tune your sail. This is all held together by way of a central shaft that is welded to this cap. You'll see that in a second. And that shaft runs through the other two pieces and then is held in place with this retaining ring, this retaining piece here. There's a pin that slides in and locks everything into place. So all we really need to do is tap that pin out and then everything can slide apart. So I got my punch. I'll go ahead and pop that out and put that in our bucket. Well, first let me show you. This pin's got a nice little flat spot on it, a little taper to it. You can see that. And so that flat spot, if we remove our retainer piece, goes through that hole, and then it's going to slide into that flat spot in our shaft. Right? So that's going to just lock everything nice together, just like that. Alright, so we'll put those in our bucket, make sure they don't run away. Next we can slide off our base. Our base again has these mounting holes. On this side they're countersunk for the heads of the bolts. And then you can see a couple of things going on here. We've got this retaining, we have this spring for the ratchet. The ratchet paw is right over here. When I press on that, it springs back. It's a little greasy. I'll show you once we clean it up a little more how that works. We can set that aside. You do want to be careful with these. Some of the newer ones have a lot of little springs in them, so just be aware things can kind of go flying open. These older ones are a little more easy to work on. Next we'll pull off our drum. The drum has notches cut into both sides for the paws in the ratchet mechanism. One for the base and then one for the cap. So you can see the cap also has this spring clip in it, and it's got the paw over here that allows you to ratchet. Alright, so next step, we'll go ahead and start cleaning these things up. I start with a rag, and the base, we'll start with the cap here. It's actually in pretty good shape. This spring will actually slide off of here pretty easy and doesn't compress much. So it's, again, it's a light duty winch. There's not a ton of tension on that, and it's not needed. For now we're just going to wipe this down real good, get the grease off of there. And I'm going to set that in my parts bin. And next we can just wipe our shaft down. Oops, there goes our paw. Should have mentioned that. I'll give you a closer look at the paw itself. Kind of looks like a little shoe. And that's what allows our ratcheting to happen. All this stuff we're just going to wipe down real well for now, and then we'll clean it up with some solution a little bit later, maybe some WD-40. So I'll keep the spring and the paw together, and we'll wipe down our cap real good. You can see the seating for the paw itself, and then the spring wraps around and it clips right in there. So we'll go ahead and set that one aside. Let's move on to the drum. This one's going to be the easiest to clean up. There's no little piecey parts in there. We can just wipe it out real good, and you can see a ton of grease, which is a good sign that this thing's been serviced before. It's not looking too bad. So I'm just going to wipe it down real good. And again, we're going to be sending this off to the plater, so we're not going to re-grease it, but that would be our next step after cleaning it out real good. So again, we'll clean that out just like that, and we'll come back and we'll hit it with some WD-40 or some degreaser just to clean it up real good. Lastly, we've got the base plate, and again, this is the same as the cap. We've got the same setup with the spring and the paw. So I'm going to actually just wipe it down a little bit so that you can see a little better what's going on here. Give you an idea of how it goes together. Alright, again, there's our paw right there, and our spring on top, and that kind of locks around that barrel. So I don't know if you can see it there, but these are basically the same pieces. So again, we're just going to slide our spring steel off carefully, just like that. We'll clean out some of that excess grease in there. And we'll set that aside in our parts tub. And the paw really just sits right in there. So again, we'll clean that up, and you'll see that's identical, well, slightly different than our other paw. Alright, so we'll set that, we'll keep those together, and we can continue to wipe this down real good and clean this thing up. Alright, so that's pretty much it. Our parts are all cleaned up and ready to go. We'll get them sent off to the plater to get re-chromed, and then they'll be ready to go back on the boat. Really appreciate you watching. Make sure you check us out on Facebook and Instagram. You can search Philly Seaport as well as Workshop on the Water. Also stay tuned for more videos coming up.